It was a night when the rain came down in heavy sheets, rattling rooftops and flooding sidewalks. The streets were almost deserted, the kind of night when people rushed home, grateful for a roof over their heads and warm food on their tables. Inside one small corner restaurant, golden light glowed through the windows, promising comfort to anyone who stepped inside. Michael Harris stood behind the counter, wiping his hands on a towel. To most people, he was a success story. He had taken a rundown cafe from nothing and turned it into one of the most beloved restaurants in town. The walls carried the scent of roasted chicken, fresh bread, and simmering herbs. His staff adored him, his customers praised him, but Michael felt hollow. Behind the polished smile he wore for guests, he carried the sting of loneliness. A year earlier, his marriage had fallen apart. His ex-wife had taken custody of their teenage daughter, and though Michael provided support, his daughter rarely returned his calls. He had drowned himself in work, telling himself that building the restaurant was all that mattered. But at night, when the laughter of his customers faded and the lights were turned off, the silence reminded him of everything missing in his life. That night, as he cleared a table near the front window, his eyes caught movement outside. Two figures lingered just beyond the glass. An elderly woman, her shoulders hunched under a thin, tattered coat, clutched the hand of a little girl who couldn't have been more than 7. The child's face was pressed against the glass, eyes wide as she stared at the plates of food inside. Her cheeks were hollow, her hair damp from the rain, yet her expression held a fragile spark of hope. The grandmother looked down, as if ashamed to be standing there. She tried to tug the girl away, but the little one wouldn't move. Michael froze. He had seen homeless people before, but something about these two stopped him cold. The girl's eyes reminded him of his own daughter when she was younger, innocent, curious, desperate for warmth. Against his usual instincts, Michael walked to the door and opened it. "Come inside," he said. His voice was softer than he intended. The grandmother hesitated, gripping the child's hand tighter. "Sir, we can't pay for a meal." Michael shook his head. "It doesn't matter. You'll get sick out there. Please, just come in." Reluctantly, she led the girl inside. Michael guided them to a booth in the corner. He brought bowls of steaming soup, slices of fresh bread, and hot chocolate topped with whipped cream for the girl. She devoured it eagerly, her eyes lighting up with each sip. The grandmother, meanwhile, ate slowly, whispering thanks with every bite, as though afraid she might wake from a dream. Later, when the last customer left, Michael noticed the child yawning, her tiny head drooping. He returned with 2 blankets. "There's a small storage room in the back," he said gently. "It's not much, but it's warm and safe. You can stay for the night." The old woman's eyes filled with tears. "Sir, you don't know what this means to us. God bless you." Michael waved off her words, pretending it was no big deal. But inside, something stirred, something he hadn't felt in a long time. The next morning, when he arrived in the kitchen, Michael was startled to see the grandmother already there, washing dishes. "I couldn't just take your kindness without giving something back," she said with a shy smile. "My name's Eleanor. This is my granddaughter, Lily." Over breakfast, she shared bits of her story. She had once been a schoolteacher. Her daughter, Lily's mother, had died of illness 2 years ago. Medical bills had consumed everything. With no family left to turn to, Eleanor had struggled to keep Lily fed and sheltered. For weeks, they had been moving from park benches to bus stations, surviving on scraps and handouts. Michael listened quietly, his heart heavy. He saw how fiercely Eleanor protected Lily, and how much dignity she still carried despite losing everything. Something about their bond reminded him of what he had lost with his own daughter. He told himself it would just be for one night. Then one more. And then another. Before long, Eleanor and Lily became regular faces in the restaurant. Resistance. Not everyone approved. One evening, his business partner, a sharp-eyed man named Victor, pulled him aside. "Michael, you're running a restaurant, not a charity. People are starting to talk. What if customers feel uncomfortable? What if something happens? You're risking your reputation, and your money, over strangers." Michael bristled. "They're not strangers anymore. They're good people who just need a chance." Victor shook his head. "Sympathy doesn't pay bills. If you keep this up, you'll drive this place into the ground." That night, Michael lay awake, wrestling with doubt. Was he being reckless? What if Victor was right? But then he remembered Lily's small voice when she had asked him, "Mr. Michael, are we your family now?" That question had pierced his soul. For the first time in years, he had felt needed. The bond grows. Days turned into weeks. Eleanor insisted on helping around the restaurant, cooking, cleaning, tutoring staff members' children in the evenings. She brought a calm presence that soothed everyone. Customers noticed her warmth and began asking for her by name. Lily, meanwhile, became a little ball of sunshine. She would run between tables, handing out bread baskets, or sit at the counter doing her homework. Her laughter filled the restaurant, softening even the grumpiest customers. And then something unexpected happened. Michael's estranged daughter, Sarah, showed up one evening. She had heard from a friend about the little girl at her father's restaurant. Curious, she came to see for herself. When Sarah walked in, she saw Michael kneeling beside Lily, showing her how to fold napkins into little swans. For a moment, Sarah felt a pang of jealousy, but also something else. She saw her father smiling in a way he hadn't smiled in years. It wasn't easy. At first, Sarah was distant, giving Michael short answers. But Lily's innocence broke the ice. She tugged Sarah's hand and said, "Do you want to help me? Mr. Michael says I'm the best helper." Sarah couldn't resist. Slowly, she began visiting more often, and Michael's fractured relationship with his daughter began to mend. A turning point. But life had more challenges in store. One afternoon, a health inspector arrived unexpectedly. He had heard complaints, likely from Victor, about suspicious people living on the premises. The inspector threatened to shut down the restaurant unless changes were made immediately. Michael felt his chest tighten. Everything he had built, everything he had sacrificed, was on the line. He could easily ask Eleanor and Lily to leave, keep his business safe, and walk away. That night, staring at the sleeping pair in the back room, he realized he couldn't do it. He fought back, cleaning and upgrading the kitchen, ensuring every regulation was met. His staff, who loved Eleanor and Lily, rallied behind him. They worked overtime, determined to keep the restaurant alive, not just for themselves, but for the family they had all grown to love. Weeks later, the inspector returned. This time, he left with no complaints. The restaurant had not only passed, it had set a new standard. 1 year later, on the anniversary of that stormy night, Michael closed the restaurant early. He gathered everyone, his staff, his daughter Sarah, Eleanor, and little Lily. He stood before them, voice thick with emotion. This restaurant started as just a business. I thought success would fill the emptiness inside me. But I was wrong. It wasn't until Eleanor and Lily walked through that door that I understood what this place was really about. Family. Love. Second chances. Tears glistened in Eleanor's eyes as she clasped his hand. You didn't just give us shelter. You gave us hope. You gave us back our dignity. And Lily, now more radiant than ever, hugged his leg and said, "You're my hero, Mr. Michael." In that moment, Michael knew he had gained more than he had ever lost. The restaurant was thriving, his relationship with Sarah was healing, and his heart was no longer empty. By the end, one thing was clear: sometimes the greatest rewards in life come not from money or success, but from opening our hearts to others. One act of kindness, just one night of shelter, can change not only someone else's future, but your own.